In '94, I was 10 years old and deeply loved horror and metal. Shows like Are You Afraid of the Dark and The Monster Squad fueled my passion for the darker side and helped me identify as a horror fan. But it was the movie Brainscan that really solidified my identity as a horror and metal fan. The story centered around an outcast teen who was himself a horror fan and, based on the soundtrack and his room decorations, loved heavier music. The movie influenced my taste in music and movies, my desire to become a movie director, and even my home decor style. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Jeremy Campbell. I am a writer, a director, and a photographer. This is my story, Tales from the CREEKBED. Horror movies were a significant part of my family's life. One of my earliest memories is watching Return of the Living Dead with my mom. I was 3 years old. I woke in the middle of the night and could not fall asleep. Through the crack at the bottom of my bedroom door, I could see that the television was still on, which meant my mom was still awake. I got out of bed, walked down the hall into the living room, and sat with her on the couch. She was watching Return of the Living Dead. I recall the smell of Suave Moose's hair product as I cuddled beside her. The scene from the movie was when Tom Matthews chases his girlfriend up into the attic and beats against the entrance door.
If I had to hurt myself to get out, but I forgive you, darling. And I know you're here because I can smell your brains.
Go away!
I'm coming up, Tina.
Go!
Growing up, horror and hard rock were as normal for me as family dinners are for the next person. But as I got older, I realized it was not so normal for other kids. Not only that, but even the kids I knew who enjoyed horror did not identify with it like I did. Family members like my cousins started to become more critical of me as I got more into horror movies and metal music, and for the first time, words like weird were being used to describe me. Once, I came to school with a damaged Justice Metallica sticker on my notebook. I had bought the sticker during a family trip to a flea market the weekend before and was excited to show it off as soon as I got to school. However, I was forced to leave my notebook inside my locker as soon as it was spotted by a teacher in the hallway. I had to replace that notebook and never got to show it off. I didn't understand why everyone was suddenly calling me weird or why my cousins avoided me. I remember seeing the previews for Brainscan on television, mostly late at night between episodes of Beavis and Butthead, but no one was talking about it. I wanted to see it when it was released in the theater, but it did not come out in my area. The movie was essentially ignored by the mainstream. I had my chance to watch Brainscan upon its VHS release. The only video store in my neighborhood carrying it was inside a grocery store. They had 2 copies in the new release section, and I rented the only one still available. From the very beginning, I was completely drawn to the movie. George S. Clinton's chilling and captivating score had me hooked. Next was the lead character's room. It was and is every teenager's dream room. It was an apartment with what was then the most groundbreaking tech around. Not to mention it was floor to ceiling, decked out in horror and metal. There was even an Alice Cooper centerfold on the fridge. The girl living next door is the literal girl next door. The story revolves around a young horror enthusiast, a loner with just one friend. He listens to heavy music, watches horror films, and plays video games.
What exactly was that, Mr. Brower?
A gallbladder, sir.
My office. Now.
The lead character, Michael, becomes immersed in a game called Brainscan, which unexpectedly turns into a real-life scenario, making him a killer. He then has to outsmart law enforcement and feels compelled to keep playing the game or be caught by the detective on his heels. The lead character, Michael, is played by Edward Furlong, who I was a fan of from Terminator 2 and Pet Sematary 2. The detective who is in pursuit of Michael is played by none other than Skeletor himself, Frank Langella. All the while, he is tormented by the game's real villain.
Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Trickster.
The experience felt like reading a nightmarish, choose-your-own-adventure book, which I loved. The movie helped me feel better about being criticized for my growing love of horror and heavy music. It also turned me to the bands like White Zombie, Tad, and Primus.
So you take responsibility.
How did you get in here?
You invited me in. That's how it always works. Michael. Don't you have anything good? Never leave home without it. From the top of the charts to a space in your heart.
Stop that! Stop it! Knock it off!
I still use the movie score as background music whenever I write. Brainscan is such a time capsule for me and my fandom that I made it a centerpiece in my first novel, The Horror Club, A Trip to the Video Store. When I decided to purchase my current house, one of the deciding factors was the presence of a third-floor media room. This was a dream since I was a child watching the movie Brainscan for the first time and saw Edward Furlong's room in the film. I enjoyed decorating the room to reflect my lifelong passion for horror. The impact of the movies Brainscan and The Monster Squad, along with the TV series Are You Afraid of the Dark, on my life as a horror enthusiast cannot be overstated. These entertainment pieces introduced me to a world where characters my age and slightly older shared my interest and identified themselves by the movies they watched and the music they listened to. If you've never seen Brainscan, I highly recommend you check it out. And if you've seen Brainscan, but it's been a while, I suggest watching it again. It holds up well and is a really fun movie, full of excellent music. I'm Jeremy Campbell, and this has been Tales from the Creek Bed. Please, if you enjoyed this episode, hit like and subscribe. Also, leave a comment below. Did you grow up watching Brainscan? And if so, what song from the soundtrack is your favorite? Also, please check out my novel, The Horror Club, A Trip to the Video Store. You can find it on Amazon.com. In the meantime, don't be scared to be you.